IBESS, Soil and Terrestrial Food Production Part 2, will start the examination of processes that degrade soil. This movie will focus on erosion, natural erosion, and human activities that accelerate erosion. Part 3, the next movie, will look at the remainder of processes causing soil degradation. The significant ideas are: fertile soils require significant time to develop through the process of succession, and human activities may reduce soil fertility and increase soil erosion. Here is the first of 2 slides that outline the available movies in the Soil and Terrestrial Food Production Unit. Use this outline to find the movie you need for review. This movie is here. Here is the second of 2 slides that outline the available movies in the Soil and Terrestrial Food Production Unit. Use this outline to find the movie you need for review. Here's the IB syllabus statement that gets this movie going. Outline the processes and consequences of soil degradation. Degraded soil results from erosion, salinization, toxification, desertification, and an overall loss of fertility that includes urbanization. In this movie, we're going to look at erosion, first as a natural process, then we'll look at the human activities that accelerate erosion. What does erosion look like? Erosion is a natural process where, through weathering and transportation, material is worn away from the Earth's surface. Take some notes on this definition. Now, in this diagram, the x-axis here is time, and over time, you can see the progressive loss of material, the erosion of soil due to wind or water. Steep slopes are prone to erosion as gravity assists the movement of soil downhill. In this image, we see a sudden slumping of the land. Here at the bottom is the definition of erosion once again. Erosion is a transfer. It is the movement of soil from one location to another, and it occurs because of water, as seen in the images on the left, or by wind, as seen in the images on the right. In this photograph, you can see the loss of material in a gully which drains water. The movement of water has caused this loss of soil, the erosion of soil. This photograph from Madagascar shows natural erosion. Water finds a channel, cuts the channel deeper and deeper, carrying the soil away with it. In this photograph from the air, we can see the locations where soil has been removed by flowing water. This is natural erosion. In this photograph from Bolivia, we can see erosion. Again, water has removed the soil. Here is another photograph from the air of a farm field in Montana. The eroded region is apparent, water having carried off the topsoil in a natural manner. Here is a photograph of wind erosion. Strong weather is often responsible for erosion. High levels of rain and wind on exposed land will increase the rate of erosion. Now, the land in this image is exposed due to human activities. Now, pay attention as I shift from natural erosion to the human activities that accelerate erosion. In this image of a fence line across an agricultural field, you can see the accumulation of soil against the fence. The soil that is accumulated here was blown here from distant locations, from this direction, from the left to the right. The soil accumulated here was eroded from locations upwind of this fence. When soil is exposed, as it often is on farm fields during the winter in particular, rates of erosion increase. In this photograph, you can see the loss of soil in the water, the irrigation water, carrying the soil away. Erosion is increased by irrigation. Remember, erosion is the process by which loose earth is loosened or worn away and removed from one place and deposited in another by wind or water. Here is another image of erosion in action on an agricultural field. As I've hinted, agricultural practices accelerate erosion. particularly irrigation, plowing, and leaving the fields bare, otherwise known as fallow. More on all of this in the slides to come. This river is carrying soil away. Erosion has occurred somewhere upstream. The consequences of erosion are reduced productivity. The land is less fertile following erosion, especially if the topsoil has been lost. Think about your soil horizons from part 1. The runoff of water, the water that is carrying this load of soil, is less clean, less potable, less drinkable. As well, land that's been eroded provides fewer services, such as water holding capacity or nutrient cycling. Here is a photograph of an estuary where river meets ocean, and the photograph was taken from space. You can see the sediment flow out of the river into the ocean. You need to see all of this sediment as eroded soil from distant locations upstream, probably from farm fields. Now the implications are twofold: reduced productivity on the lands from which the soil has come, and the loss of soil cannot be recovered. Secondly, the ocean receives a nutrient load right here, and this would likely stimulate productivity. Here's an image of a river carrying red soil toward the ocean in Madagascar. Astronauts have remarked that it looks as if Madagascar is bleeding. I've been dancing around this IB syllabus statement, so here it is. Discuss the human activities that accelerate erosion. You've been hearing my frequent reference to agricultural practices that accelerate erosion. I want to emphasize our focus is on erosion with the slides to follow. We're not looking at other forms of soil degradation. The discussion of human activities that accelerate erosion begins with agriculture. As you can see with this slide, there are 4 aspects of agriculture that accelerate erosion. Once we've examined how agriculture accelerates soil erosion, we'll look at deforestation. Regular plowing disturbs the soil, and the disturbed soil, in combination with bare land, increases the rate of erosion. The term fallow equals land plowed and left unseeded for at least one season, and fallow land increases wind erosion. Even on traditional farms, subsistence farms, the farmers will plow the land, and the mechanical disturbance of soil will increase the rate of erosion. Industrial agriculture has large tracts of land plowed and irrigated. The soil is loose and quite susceptible to wind erosion. In this image, you can see erosion happening as the machine cuts across the land. Irrigation also serves to accelerate erosion. Some of the water pumped onto the land will run off, carrying soil with it. If you look carefully, you can see runoff in the gullies between the planted rows. Some of the water from flooded fields will run off, carrying soil with it. This is erosion. Water and wind are the primary agents of erosion. In this photograph, you can see runoff that's carrying soil. Eroded land is less productive, less fertile without the A horizon, without the topsoil. As well, with erosion, there is a loss of ecological services, such as flood control, water purification, water holding capacity, and nutrient cycling. The rearing of animals in agriculture can accelerate erosion. Livestock, if intensely grazed, with significant trampling of the soil, results in a lack of cover, a loosening of the soil, a loss of soil biota, all of which increases the rate of erosion. With intensive grazing and increased erosion, there is a reduced productivity of the land, a reduced soil fertility. And with erosion, there is a loss of ecological services, such as flood control, water holding capacity, nutrient cycling. Industrial agriculture accelerates erosion. Farming vast tracts of land starts with deforestation, and then there's plowing, irrigation, fallow farm fields, and intensive grazing, the trampling of livestock. All of these things accelerate erosion. Industrial agriculture is also a monoculture, a single crop grown across the entire of the landscape. Industrial farms are not diverse, they're a monoculture, and they require herbicides and pesticides. Industrial farms reduce soil fertility in many ways. More on this in Part 3. Now, let's look at deforestation and its impact on erosion. Deforestation is defined as the clearing or removal of a forest or stand of trees, where the land is thereafter converted to a non-forest use. Technology, such as a chainsaw, has increased the rate of harvest, the rate of deforestation. In most forests of the world today, especially in tropical countries, less economically developed countries, the rate of deforestation exceeds the rate of replacement. Most forests in LEDCs are not harvested sustainably. Deforestation is the removal of a forest or stand of trees where the land is thereafter converted to a non-forest use. Deforestation often happens to increase agricultural land area, but in any case, the original habitat is lost, with a significant decline in diversity. When species become endangered because of a decrease in habitat availability, this is what's meant. With deforestation, soil is left exposed to the weather, to the forces of erosion. Water and wind will remove the soil. As well, the ecological services are compromised: water holding capacity, flood control, purification of groundwater, and nutrient cycling. If the deforestation occurs in a tropical region, in addition to losing soil to erosion, the exposed land hardens in a process known as laterization. The soil is less fertile following deforestation, in part because of the soil hardening, as well as because of the loss of topsoil, Horizon A. When deforestation occurs, the soil is less fertile in part because so much of the original organic material has been removed. Think about what's taken away from the place where these trees were growing. And think about the services that had been provided by the intact ecosystem but are no longer provided once deforestation occurs. Deforested land is more likely to experience significant slumping of land, where large areas loosen and become small landslides. You can see in this image, most of the area has been deforested, based on what little forest is left. Look at all of the slumping of land, small landslides that happened throughout the area. This is a photo that I took in the Cameron Highlands of Malaysia. Notice the original forest here, and over here deforestation to make way for a tea plantation. You can imagine how the loss of trees in this area, as well as the agriculture, have degraded the soil. The intact system provided many ecological services that it can no longer provide once deforestation has occurred. Deforestation often results in erosion in the form of landslides that often follow rainfall. Erosion, such as this landslide, has tragic implications for people. Deforested land is less productive, less fertile, and mostly due to erosion. And deforested land looks different in different locations, so be careful. In this image, taken in the hills of India, the land has been overused, deforested first and then overgrazed by animals. If you look carefully, you can see erosion. Even the building of ski resorts can result in erosion, as can be seen through the clouds of this image. Rates of erosion are high on the ski slopes in the spring, following snowmelt. Here is a photograph of deforestation that has happened following the building of a road. Building a road into a forested area is the first step toward deforestation, and often the first step toward erosion. Keep this in mind. A road designed to do nothing more than connect villages is often the trigger for widespread deforestation, for widespread erosion. Here is a photograph that I took in New Zealand that shows clear-cutting, deforestation, and if you look closely, you can see erosion. Erosion would be accelerated on these slopes, but as you can see in this image, there is reforestation going on, replanting, happening here and here and here, as well as through here. Interestingly, despite the replanting, the original forest is not replaced in its original state. You can see original forest here with the new forests here. What we see are tree farms where a single species of interest is planted and harvested and replanted. These are monocultures that are far less diverse than the original habitat and more subject to erosion than the original habitat. As well, the soils are less fertile. Degraded soil results from erosion, salinization, toxification, desertification, and the general loss of fertility that includes urbanization. In this movie, we looked at erosion, first as a natural process, and then we looked at the human activities that accelerate erosion. In the next movie, we will take a look at all the other factors that result in degraded soil. So that brings us to the end of IBESS, Soil and Terrestrial Food Production, Part 2.